Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shy. What's going on, champ? What's up?
Champs.
Good shit. Talk your shit. What's up, Chris? I already knew how I was gonna be copping on with you.
Yeah. 2024.
The fact that he
NBA
raced
champ.
home to put on this jersey.
I sure did.
That's what's up, though.
But I mean, as we alluded to, obviously the Boston Celtics are officially the 2024 NBA champions of the world. First of all, before we get into anything, do y'all ever see the controversy about them saying world champions versus national champions and stuff like that?
From Noah Lyles.
Yeah. How I feel about it? I mean, we all know, come on. Come on. We know this is the best basketball league in the world. Let's not kid ourselves. So that's why I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I don't even remember what prompted him to say that, but I mean, everybody know what's up. I mean, that's why a lot of the Europeans try to come over and play in the NBA. They know what kind of league it is. So,
and everybody that's overseas, most of the people, not everybody, most people that's overseas are players that couldn't shake in the NBA, couldn't shake it in the NBA. So, yeah.
You know, they be playing the Olympics and the niggas be asking for autographs after the game. Like, let's
right.
But no, I saw on Twitter I think the Celtics had put that they were world champs, and there was a community note that said it's actually the national, or it stands for National Basketball Association, so it's national champ. Like, bro, shut up. Bro.
Those community notes be funny though, for real.
But with that being said, congratulations to Chris as a fan and the Boston Celtics ultimately winning in 5 games against the Dallas Mavericks. With JB winning the Finals MVP, Jaylen Brown, with how the Finals ultimately turned out, obviously we talked about it last week, so we kind of saw they were up 2-0 going into Game 3 that night, and by the end of the night they were up 3-0. How did you guys feel ultimately that with the last 2 games, or the last 3 games, I guess, that turnout, and how did you guys feel about the MVP? Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
I felt like, go ahead, Chris. It's your flow. It's your flow.
I mean, look, 3. I mean, obviously we up 3-0. No team has ever came back from 3-0 and confident that we was going to win the series. But I will say, after Game 4, even though we lost, I didn't like how we lost. I didn't like that we really got blown the fuck out on that game. So I was like, okay, they didn't. Everybody, saying, they just want to win at home. Nah, win it now. I ain't like that part of it. But obviously, we came back home Game 5 and went ahead and took care of business basically the first half. So that was exciting to see. As far as the MVP goes, I'm happy for Jaylen Brown. It could have went to him or Tatum. If I had a vote, I probably would have went with Tatum, but I understand with Brown simply because he had basically the defensive assignment against Luka. He took the challenge on off rip Game 1, picking him up 94 feet. Guarding at a high level. Obviously Luka gonna still score because he's just that dynamic of a scorer. But I think his defensive impact is what ultimately made more voters vote for him instead of Jason Tatum. But I mean, not to knock on Jason Tatum. Obviously, he led the team in assists, rebounds, and points. So that ain't nothing to sniff at or whatever. But I'm okay with JB winning it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the finals, as a whole, I thought it was kind of weak, to be honest with you.
Everybody else was saying 5 and 6 for Dallas. Easy money.
Yeah. It still turned out to be weak.
Nah,
yeah.
Bro.
Just weak in the other way.
No. Go ahead.
Nah. It's no shame on the Celtics or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did think this it didn't live up to the hype at all.
Right.
And that's really on Dallas. I mean, it's credit to y'all for putting it on them for 4 games, really. But it's really on Dallas. They had a lot of no-shows over there. Yeah, that was Paul's. They had a lot of no-shows over there. It was a disappointing effort for a team that went through what they went through in the West and to get to the finals. And it was very disappointing to see how they played. They played like they did, like for one, they played like it wasn't the finals. You know what I mean? They weren't trying very hard. It wasn't a lot of effort spent. That's what it appeared like. as a fan viewing it. So yeah, it was a lot to be desired from this finals. Credit to the Celtics for sure. They've been the best team all year. We talked a lot about it last week. So not super surprising that it's over in 5. Like you said, that one game where they got blown out, you know how that shit go. Yeah, I'm sure the league likes that it went 5 games instead of 4. That's back-to-back 5-game series in the finals, which is that's not a great look. That's not a great product that you're putting out. That's my overall point on it. As far as MVP goes, I also got some problems with that too. Not necessarily that Jalen won, but more of the narrative around it. In the voters, we saw the list of voters and how. I really want to know the criteria to vote. I really want to know, and it's not outwardly like put out there like what is required to vote, and that's what kind of bothers me a little bit. Like, make it known to the fans what you have to be a voter. As much stock as people put in finals MVPs and all that, I would have gave Jason Tatum personally, but I do get that Jaylen Brown, he had those in the games that mattered. The first, 3 games, he was the one that was the most consistent one, that kind of put the series away. So I get that, but Jason Tatum did have a great game 3. He had a pretty good game 5, a closeout game. Of course, they say he was gunning for it in that game, which that could be argued. But yeah, so I don't have a problem. I just would have gave it to Jason Tatum overall. Shai, what you think?
Yeah, the series, it was a disappointment overall, obviously, because not because of, obviously, it's great to see Boston dominate. It's never a bad thing to see it's never a bad thing to see greatness. It's never a bad thing. People, obviously, there was a time where people complained about the Cavs and the Warriors always being in the finals or the Warriors being in the finals. It's never a bad thing to see greatness. So it's not like it's a negative on the Celtics. But mostly for me, it was like the stars on the Dallas side. Before, when we made our predictions for the finals, I said that I felt like I did say that the Dallas Mavericks were going to win, so I was wrong. You guys were both went with the Celtics, obviously, Chris. But I did feel like all the stars were going to show up and get their just due. I don't think Kyrie or Luka really showed up. I mean, I know people are talking about, Luka averaged XYZ and
He said
XYZ,
he played good. He played great. I'm like, what?
Luka was not good. I mean, it was his I don't want to say his effort, but he was kind of like lackadaisical coming up with the ball, which led to a lot of steals with Jaylen Brown and Derek White. Just like a little silly, careless turnovers. The defensive, like the switches, they were poor on. I mean, I'm not going to completely just say it was him because obviously you have to communicate that and stuff like that. But, it just overall, mostly Luka, but then you also had Kyrie. Obviously, Boston, the city itself probably did get into his head a little bit, no matter, that's just natural human. And definitely wanting to be able to show out and to answer all the critics and all the criticism that has come from him and all the vitriol that's come. Because, I mean, he even got into talking shit with a fan and during game 5. But, he didn't play his best. He didn't have his best series. And, I mean, ultimately, I'm sure, like Chris said, a lot of media members went with the Dallas Mavericks because I think, like myself, everybody overvalued how good Luka and Kyrie were going to be. And, some people are saying they undervalued like the team. I don't think people undervalued the Celtics themselves, but just Luka, you felt like it was, he was about to snap, basically, especially coming off that last game that he had to get them to the finals. So, but in terms of the MVP, I mean, I'm not up in arms in it. Like everybody's basically said it was close. I actually felt that, Cass said in the games that mattered, Jaylen Brown showed up. I mean, he wasn't necessarily great. I mean, he was great the first 2 games, or he was good the first 2 games. He obviously played well defensively against Luka throughout the entirety of the series. But the first 2 games were like, the first game definitely wasn't close. Like everybody was eating, aside from Jason Tatum for real. I actually thought that for me, I would have went Jason Tatum as well, but you could have went either way. But the reason that I thought that I would have went Jason Tatum is that game 3. I am assuming that the reason that Jaylen Brown won more than anything is because he hit that shot at the end of game 3 to put them up 4. in my opinion, it was actually Jason Tatum that kept him in the game the entirety of the game. The first half, Jaylen Brown was
Was
absolutely terrible.
bad, very
The
bad.
entire team was terrible except for Jason Tatum. He kept him in the game. That was a game that should have been a blowout for the Dallas Mavericks. But aside for Jason Tatum, I think that is what made the series be what it ended up being, because we could have very well been here talking about a game 6 or a game 7 right now. But I thought that was actually more key than the shot itself. Obviously, they were already up. He put them up 4, so that was like essentially the closeout. But they were already up. Jason Tatum was the really reason that they stayed in the game. And then in game 5, I mean, he went for 30 and like 11. I mean, you gotta, whether it was a blowout, whether he was gunning for it, it doesn't matter. Like he did his thing. But I mean, at the end of the day,
almost had triple double in game 2.
Yeah,
people put a lot, shooting percentage, but like you said, even we can go back forward. It's like he's bona fide been our big man. When Porzingis is out, he's leading the team in rebounds as a forward. Like he's pop. He's doing way more than obviously Jaylen Brown, outside of Jaylen Brown defending the best player on the other team. But he's definitely doing way more.
Obviously, our eyes are on him as well. We're seeing. I mean, what do you have, like 12, 13 assists in the last game? He had multiple, he averaged 7 assists the entire series. So,
right.
I mean, it's not for no reason. Like, they're obviously paying attention, focusing on Jason Tatum when he has the ball. I would say it's like the things that you see Jason or Jaylen Brown. God, the fucking Jason.
I know.
Brown, but Jaylen Brown, you're seeing him. He's guarding Luka, so you think like, oh, Luka's doing bad. You're like, Jaylen Brown's the one that's doing all this. But you see, like, he obviously had a couple steals, and you're not saying that he wasn't guarding him well, but like that's what you're like seeing, right, in your face. So that's people are like, oh, he's a dog, like he's doing all this, which I'm not saying he's not. Jason Tatum, and I feel like Jaylen Brown doesn't. He takes a lot of some silly shots sometimes, but Jason Tatum more so. He doesn't always, like, when he's not shooting well from the 3, he doesn't always go to driving or shooting mid range. I feel like Jaylen Brown has like a better maybe shot IQ, but maybe also it's because Jason Tatum knows, like, I can score easily, like I can do all of this shit. So like but I feel like that's also another reason why you see sometimes like you don't necessarily see Jaylen Brown like consistently struggle, but he's always consistent. He's always consistently giving you that 20 to 22 points because he's hitting the mid range and he's going to the basket. He's taking advantage of mismatches. So
that's why
Jason
I think
Tatum on the end, step back.
Step back.
Yeah, he trying all types of. But that's exactly why I think that the series was. I mean, not the series, but the Finals MVP kind of thing was pretty much over after the first 2 games. Like, I feel like Jaylen Brown's gonna win that shit regardless of what the fuck Jason Tatum did, because he's going to get you that 20 to 22 points for the rest of the series. And if they win it, they're going to pick Jaylen because of that first game, because of the highlights that he had in that. Because of Jason Kidd's comments, like all of that, you know how this shit is with narrative and all that. So I really feel like it was his to lose after those first 2 games. And we see how it shook out.
Nah, got that whole.
If it was a closer game, I think.
If he would have
had the same game and it was like a back and forth game where like he was going back and forth with Luka or something, but had the same stat line, I think he would have won it in that game 5. But I mean, either way, it's not I think Jaylen Brown was deserving as well. Yeah. So it's not like, one dude averaged 20, the other dude averaged 22. It's not like either of them were just lights out scoring. Right. So, but obviously over the past couple of days since the win, there's been conversations, and like they do every year, who's going to stop them? How's the future going to look? Are they going to be a dynasty? We've seen some comparisons to the 04 Pistons just generally due to I can't remember a specific term but the Pistons used to say they had the best starting 5. And the Celtics probably feel like they have the same thing. Do you feel that comparison is valid, or do you compare them to any team really, or another possible dynasty or another championship team? And do you think that this is a team that's sustainable?
I think it's sustainable. We all saw the path that they took this year, and how it was critiqued. Let's be honest, and it was critiqued by players that are sitting on the panel for NBA Countdown, like Joel Embiid. So I think even though that they faced, even though like the East was like super injured, pretty much all the stars are injured for every team except for Orlando. You can't deny what they did during the regular season. You can't deny that I think they got the first seed by more than 14 games or something like that. It's ridiculous how good they were during the regular season, and they figured it out. They used the regular season to figure out what they needed to do. And what they figured out is, okay, we have our top 6 guys, and this is the lineups that need to be around, each of them. And they're bringing all their guys back. Tatum's getting extended. Derek White, I saw today that he's likely getting extended. So when you got a team like this, you want to keep it, you want to bring it back, and that's kind of what messed up. I think Denver a little bit because they did not sign Bruce Brown back, who was huge for them throughout that whole run last year, and a huge piece because we know that Denver was said to have the best starting 5 in the league, right? They were close to it. But then after that, it's like, okay, who you got? Your main guy off the bench now is Reggie Jackson because you let Bruce Brown go. It's like, so I think they're doing it right by extending these guys, making sure that they keep at least. And Al Horford said he's coming back for another season as well. Make sure that they keep these guys and keep that core intact. So I think it is sustainable. I think it's good to see. As far as comparing it to other like teams or the dynasties, I feel like you can't really do that yet. You gotta want to see more, but what you can compare it to is the Denver Nuggets last year. Of course, they don't have the bona fide, like best player, arguably the best player in the league, but they do have the team and the coaching that surrounds, all of that. And if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can combine to be that, they'll be fine.
Denver have their bona fide top 2, which obviously, Celtics do too. Mm-hmm. But the fact that Porzingis averaged 20 also, you had 3 people that averaged 20 for the whole season. And so with that, and then you have 2 of the best, defensive backcourt in the league, and they're comfortable, accepting their role. And so my biggest thing for them in general, Kristaps still gets hurt. You see he was hurt the entire playoffs. Who's to say? I know. Shy like to think that, but who's to say? We would have went 6-7 games if Jared Allen played and we didn't have Kristaps Porzingis. That's a big piece for us. So for them, whatever. For them, it's more so injury. And then the East thing you said, I didn't like that conversation because I get it, they were hurt. But they wasn't hurt the whole year. We played against Giannis and them. We played against before Embiid got hurt. Like we played against these teams when they were healthy, and we beat them. And like you said, throughout the whole year, we were up by 14 games. And I get it. You get to the playoffs, it's supposed to be high pressure situation. But Jason and Jaylen, they done been to the conference finals 5 to 6 times. Like they done been through all that. They done felt the pressure. And then it's just I don't know. I just don't like how people try to make it seem like they ain't never been there before, but they would love to use the fact that they have been there and lost. They'll use that as an excuse, but they don't want to say, nah, they got experience. But as far as running the back, they can do it.
That's fair.
I don't. Obviously, it's hard to guarantee. It's hard to guarantee a back-to-back. It's hard to guarantee a dynasty. So, that's just being realistic. It is obviously a step too far. I honestly think that they kind of remind me of the Warriors. The Warriors had a team they had Mark Jackson there that kind of instilled their defense, instilled their culture. He leaves kind of unceremoniously, little bit of controversy, similar to Ime Udoka, who kind of set the defense. Well, obviously Brad Stevens was there. And they had a little bit of culture, but in terms of like the defense that they had, obviously Brad Stevens probably set the culture, but the defense, Ime kind of set that. Obviously, we know his freak offs and stuff, but we get Joe Mazzulla in kind of like that Steve Kerr. And first year, we really should have got the Denver Celtics matchup last year. Honestly, probably should have got it this year too, but Denver folded on their end. So maybe we will see it next year, and that be like the Cavs, Warriors back and forth. But also like. I won't say that maybe like nationally, publicly, there was this conversation there was definitely conversations around our circles about Steph and Clay in terms of, I mean, maybe some of it was in jest, and we all knew that Steph was that dude, but there was definitely some people like, hey, especially Game 6 Clay, you seen it. It's like Clay's more clutch. Clay's the dog. Clay this, that, and the third. You know, that's the same thing. And then, I mean, you have like the vets, like an Andre Iguodala and Al Horford and Drew Holiday and stuff like that, even both of them playing for the 76ers and stuff. So, I mean, they kind of, you can make comparisons if you want to and put things together and try to talk yourself into it. But that's honestly what keeps sticking out to me, like a team similar to the Warriors, especially given they hate on, like Chris said, they talk about the Celtics losses in XYZ, but I mean, they really should have been in the finals 3 back-to-back years. Yeah. Like, it really should have been in the finals 3 back-to-back years. And I think they probably would have lost against Denver this year. Last year, just because Denver was rolling and the Celtics were, they didn't have Kristaps. This year, with Kristaps, I don't know how that would have went. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, like we said, the injuries. I mean, injuries can happen to anybody, any team. So obviously they could hit the Celtics, but I mean, they're so deep, at least with their starting five, and and understanding their roles and accepting their roles, that you can see them being somebody that's back there again. So I would like to see it if maybe it's the Celtics era, honestly, because everybody's talked about it being Luka, Giannis, Jokic, and then people tried to sneak Embiid in conversations he should have never been in. But they tried to sneak Embiid in there too. So I mean, maybe it's the Celtics era. You never know. They built the team right, and just like the Warriors, they were a team that was built through the draft. They had some circumstances, like the Warriors once again, that allowed them to have extra money to get players such like a Kristaps, and they like the Warriors obviously had Steph Curry, on a smaller contract than he should have been at that point in time when he started winning MVPs, and obviously Jason Tatum hasn't been an MVP yet. So that's just what I keep thinking. Aside from injuries and stuff like that, we also have teams moving and shaking. We got free agency and trades that are obviously free agency. Technically, a stage of free agency just started once the finals ended, with teams being able to negotiate with their own free agents. And then next week or towards the end of next week, we will have free teams will be able to officially speak to other free agents. So let's go ahead and get into some movers and shakers. I'm going to name out some names, and I want to know if y'all think they're staying or if they're moving. And if you think they're moving, what's a team that you think you can fit?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's start off with Trae Young.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Hawks have the number 1 pick, and they've got a lot of decisions to make coming up this offseason. So, do you guys think that Trae Young gets moved, or do you think he stays?
All right, so of course they're a big topic of discussion this summer, obviously with the first round pick, but they've been the topic of discussion throughout the year. Ever since Trae, we've heard rumors of Trae Young being in potential trades, even DeJounte Murray. So in this one, I think Trae Young ends up staying. I know, like a good option, you can consider it a good option to just blow it up and start over. And get your assets in for him. And kind of just rebuild that thing. But I think Trae Young is still a good player, a really good player in this league.
Great player.
We cannot discount the run that he had a couple years ago when he went to the conference finals. Like he has that in him for sure. It's just putting the right pieces around him, and I think that the Hawks should pivot in that direction and continue to build around Trae. I don't think him and DeJounte Murray necessarily need to be together. I don't know what you can get from Murray on the flip side of that, as far as assets goes, because when you talk about what their trade packages and their trade worth, it's kind of all over the place right now with the league, because superstar different stars or superstars are really judged. It's weird. It's weird how what a potential package could be. So it's hard to predict that for DeJounte Murray, but I think Trae Young stays. That's my long-winded answer. I think he should stay.
I just don't know where. Honestly, I don't know where personally he could fit. But I find it's funny because wasn't he the one who they traded Luka Doncic for?
Yeah.
But he's his ass at. But I mean, I like Trey. I think he's a good player. It's just Atlanta. I mean, they just not building good teams. I'm not sure what direction they need to go. Even if they keep Trey Young, I mean, you tried it with getting a Clint Capella with the pick. I mean, it worked a little bit, but not really. I mean, you do got some budding stars in DeAndre Hunter, but you got rid of Kevin Herter, you got rid of Cam Reddish. I mean, I don't honestly. They in turmoil, so I don't know where they go.
They got some. They got some young pieces over there, like you said.
Dude,
With Hunter, with Jalen Johnson, but
Jalen Johnson.
And they're really putting a lot of stock into him. So I mean, if they get this pick right, which has seemed to pivot away from Alex Sarr, we'll see how that goes next week. But if they get this pick right, this could be a good launching point to kind of seeing what you can get for DeJounte Murray and just build out a team around him. But what do you think, Shot?
I think he should go. I think it makes sense for him to go to the Spurs. I think that's a perfect fit for him with Victor Wembanyama. And if it is, just it might get scary for them down in San Antonio next year. But they obviously have two lottery picks that they can trade for Trae Young, and I think it just makes sense for the Hawks because let's say you do pick Sarr or old boy from UConn, the center from UConn that's been rumored to be the number one pick for them.
Clinton.
If you are next year, if they miss the playoffs again, now we're having the same conversation. It just makes sense to go ahead. You have 3 picks. You would have 3 picks in the top 5, I believe. And at that point, it makes for a quick turnaround. You build around Jalen Johnson. Obviously, he's somebody that's proven to a point that he is somebody that they might be a player in this league. And then from there, you also trade. Well, we'll get into him, but I mean, obviously, I'm stating what I am, and we can just take that and go from there. DeJounte Murray, I think we're all on the same page. He's got to go. So DeJounte Murray, I mean, I think the Lakers make the most sense there if Bron stays, especially, well, obviously if Bron stays. I think it just makes sense. You can also get a first-round pick from the Lakers, probably get another player to fill out the roster, and then you just rock with the young guys. You get a Billingham or something like that as a guard, and now you have whether they take Sarr or I can't even say his last name right, so I don't want to mess it up. But the center from UConn, and you have obviously your center and power forward. If you keep DeAndre Hunter or trade him, you also obviously have another asset, and then you just rock with the young guys. So, but I don't know how that looks for Quinn Snyder.
That's true too.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
At the end of the day, he was technically last year was his first full year, so maybe he wants to just start brand new again. He instills his own system, and gets them from the jump as opposed to because obviously Trey has had some issues with his previous coaches as well. So there's. I'm not saying that Trey is any type of like malcontent or anything like that, but there could be like a stigma there from Quinn or even a stigma from Trey, like like they've been jerking me this whole this whole time in Atlanta. And I'm sure everybody respects Pop, so I just think it makes sense and it accelerates the Spurs timeline with Pop getting up there in age.
That's fair.
But DeJounte Murray, I said Lakers, so I'm just leave it at that. You guys said that y'all think he'll be moved. Where do y'all think see him going?
That's another tough one. That's another tough one that I have no idea because I don't know what position he really wants to play and really can play at this juncture. Do you want to have him be that point guard that controls everything, and do you want to mold him into more like a Drew Holiday? Or do you want to run him off ball more? It depends on what a team is looking for. I think the Lakers could be a good fit because he wouldn't handle all, especially with Bron there. He wouldn't handle all the playmaking duties. So I think that's a good fit there. But I mean, do you want to pair him with I'm trying to think of teams on the fly.
I mean, I feel like he would fit the culture. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Like more, like you said, Kaz. I know with the whole on ball, off ball, but late game situations, you still got Jimmy Butler there, so he wouldn't have to he could kick them, kickstart them in general. But Jimmy is still there, so Jimmy doesn't always handle the ball the whole time.
Atlanta might be good for Harrow, especially if they blow it up. Just say, even if they don't blow it up with Trae Young, Tyler Herro, I mean, that defensive backcourt is nasty, but but I mean, if you have, you get Donovan from UConn and, he's 7 whatever. But I mean, how different is that from, once again, how different is that from DeJounte and Trae? So we'll see. But since we're out in LA, let's go ahead and talk about some LA guys. We can go ahead and start with LeBron James. I mean, he's the big fish every year. What you guys thinking? Are you thinking that LeBron surprises us again, or he just keeps it as is?
See, I mean, he could obviously. There's plenty of reasons for him to leave, but I don't know. I just think I think he liked what he got with Anthony Davis, and he really wants to instill more into him. And when it's his time to go, he really wants it to be AD team. AD, he did good this year. He stayed healthy, dominating, but I still think he got another level he can get as far as just being more intense in the game. And I think LeBron, he gonna try to do something with that. So I think he stays.
I think he ultimately stays too. I think it's more about what makes sense for him to go, like, and just change at this point in his career. Of course, we saw Rich. Well, I don't know if y'all saw it, but Rich Paul came out. He's been in a bunch of interviews lately, but he said that is him playing with his son is not like the end all be all anymore. We'll see how true that is or whatever. But with that being said, I don't see the point in leaving LA at this point. I think you kind of just rock with what you got. You kind of build around them. I know this head coaching search is a little all over the place right now for them. But we'll see how that kind of shakes out. And we'll talk about that surely probably next week. They should have it wrapped up by next week, hopefully. And that will kind of clear things up about what we expect from them. But I think he ends up staying.
I think he ends up staying as well.
Reluctantly
but
it's
I'm very reluctant because I think that it really depends on how the next week shakes out. Obviously, the indication right now is that JJ Redick is going to be the head coach. I do not think that even if JJ Redick is the head coach, LeBron is a guarantee to stay. I think that what shakes out with the draft and or trades, because at these guys that we're talking about, we're assuming probably, well, at least the Trae, DeJounte Murray specifically, because the Atlanta Hawks kind of had to make a decision. I'm thinking they're going to be moved within the next week if they are going to be moved. So if we start seeing the Lakers making some moves, that would probably give us some indication. But I think I think also on top of the JJ Redick, if JJ Redick is the head coach, I think the assistants are very key in terms of who they sign.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately the Lakers will somehow get it right. But I do not think that he should stay. I mean, I'm just, come back home, bro.
I'm taking a long ass time to get a coach so he can get his assistants. I mean,
I think that obviously there's a couple head coaching spots open right now, Cleveland being one of them. Obviously the finals was going on. I don't think that the fact that Cleveland and LA with LeBron being a free agent, both of them having head coaching vacancies and both of the processes kind of moving at the same pace, I don't think that's coincidence. I will say that as well.
You might got a point. We'll see.
I don't think that's coincidence at all. But like I said,
so he really want to say it though.
He think it's Cleveland or LA.
I think it's Cleveland or LA. I think if, like I've said before, if LeBron wants to win and the Lakers want to stay any type of relevant post LeBron, I think it makes the most sense for him to come back to Cleveland. I think the team that whatever they could get in a sign-in trade from the Cavs, because it's going to start with Darius Garland, I think would make more sense for them than trying to. I just don't think there's a path for them to be a champion in the West right now. I think there's an easy path. Well, not easy, but I think there's a viable path for them to be a champion.
I think that's the best case for LeBron to go ahead and go to Cleveland and leave LA.
I think so too.
I think so as well.
I think so too. And I think that also makes, and for me, I think it also, and a lot of this is fan talking myself into it, I think it makes sense for Garland. Obviously, the Lakers are a huge brand, but he still has somebody in AD there. They have Austin Reeves, who's they'll probably still have Austin Reeves, who's a ball handler as well. it gives him the show, but it really gives him the show that he didn't get to fully progress into with Donovan because, like, the Cavs were on a weird timeline. Like, when they started to progress, Donovan kind of gets, like, inserted and then it, like, hyper accelerates what they were supposed to be. But, I don't know. We'll see. But PG.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was on. He was doing the pregame shows for the finals, and we saw some awkward
Tampering.
/ funny movements or moments with him and Embiid. Do you
Yeah.
guys think that Paul George stays or he gets moved ultimately?
I think it's something there with Embiid, with the Sixers, and Paul George. Of course, he had his podcast released today. Earlier today, he had some comments about kind of how he felt about how the season went overall. Which the timing of this, since they've been out for a while, you know what I mean? They've been out the playoffs for a while. The timing of this is very interesting to happen. Like, I just think it's very interesting. But of course, he said some things about how he felt that the James Harden, he said it's not James Harden's fault, but the James Harden fit wasn't necessarily worth it as far as the assets that they gave up. And I mean, looking at it, I don't know. I can see both sides of it because at the same time, you did go on like a 26-5 run in the season, and then it seemed like you figured some stuff out, regardless of you losing a couple of key pieces that he said, and Nick Batum and Rocco. But I think just him talking about that, how he talk about how he wants to play the right style of basketball, which I don't even know if he knows what that is for him at this point in his career. I just think something's in his head. Somebody's getting in his head at this point. I think not making the USA team also gets in his head a little bit. I just feel like Paul George is that type of guy, like really like ponder on this shit and be like, okay, maybe I should change my scenery. Maybe I should change my situation. So I do actually I think he ends up going somewhere else. And I think the Sixers talk is real. The Sixers need to do something. They need to take a swing. And of course, there was an article that came out about how James Harden's situation could affect Paul George going to the Sixers, but I don't know how much of an impact that really has. I think James Harden just
especially because like Daryl Morey clearly took care of James Harden for years, and James Harden clearly sold
exactly.
him, so
and if Paul George was to leave, yeah,
Daryl Morey is a lot.
Exactly. And if Paul George was to leave, he's going to sign a big contract up front anyway, and this is probably going to be his last big contract. Let's be real.
He's a liar.
So I don't think that situation has anything to do with what Paul George may or may not do. So I think the Sixers talk is really real, and I think Paul George really wants to go back to the East as well.
Might want to stay there, but I don't know. I just feel like even him going to the Sixers, it really depends on how he want to view himself as a player and on that team in general. Like, you move into the Sixers, spotlight's on you now. Most definitely is on you. Like, you're not the guy because it's supposed to be in BT, but you're basically the guy that they're gonna deem getting them over the hump, whatever hump that is. Maybe trade send Tobias Harris' ass back. He was there anyway, so send his ass back. But I honestly don't see that. I think he's gonna stay. I honestly do.
That's fair.
I think he leaves as well, but I really don't know what team he goes to.
It's tough.
I do think that one of the thing that Chris just mentioned is very interesting. He's from LA. Why couldn't he go to the Lakers? He wanted to go to the Lakers. I know he lied and told everybody he was a Clippers fan, and I mean I don't know about lying, but he lied and told everybody he wanted to go to the Clippers and stuff like that. But we all know that he really wanted to go to the LA. I would say the most likely destination, honestly, would probably be his former team, the Indiana Pacers. I think it makes a lot of sense for, in terms of playing the right style of basketball, like he said. The reason that I do think the Sixers talk is real. Part of the reason that I don't think my mind has kind of changed on the Sixers is because of the podcast and what he specifically said about the Rocco, Nicholas Batum stuff. And it was that him and Kawhi ended up becoming kind of like the dirty guys doing all the dirty work. If he goes to Philly, he is 100% like that's his role because he's not gonna. In my opinion, I don't think they're gonna give him the keys over Therese Maxey. He's obviously not getting over Embiid. So now you just become the 3-and-D guy basically, which I I mean, he might like it, but I don't know. So
I don't even think he knows. I really don't.
In Indiana, he's going there. If he goes to Indiana, he's their number one scorer from the jump. No questions asked. Like Therese Halliburton has no issue being a guy that gets 10 and 15. And Pascal Siakam, similar to Jaylen Brown, he's a consistent 24, for you. He's not, I mean, obviously he had a great playoff run, and I actually really like Pascal Siakam, so I'm not saying it's like hate on him or anything like that, but in terms of your number one guy, Paul George,
Right.
he's comfortable, obviously, in Indiana. He was the number one guy there for years. He instantly comes in, and that can be the expectation, and there's no issue. He fits in seamlessly. So, and then he also gives them a boost defensively. So I think that actually kind of makes. Now I'm kind of really talking myself into it. I think
Yeah,
that
you
actually
are.
makes a lot of
You
sense.
are. But I think like going back to the Clippers, I just don't think I hear you, Chris, but I just don't think that's a smart move at all at this point. I really don't. I don't see why you would. I get the being from LA part two. I don't think the Lakers though. I don't think the Lakers is really going to be the option for him.
I don't think it is either, but it was just something that came to mind. To be honest.
Yeah.
But we talked about it in our chat today. He clearly did not want James Harden there.
Mm.
I don't even know if he's a fan of James Harden, like as a person.
But we knew Kawhi was like huge on James Harden. Pause.
And I don't even think Russ. Russ obviously shows love. The rumor was when Russ left, or the report was when Russ left Houston, he basically wanted out of Houston because of James Harden. So he wanted to go to Houston because of James Harden, but wanted out because of James Harden. That was the report. We don't know that. I don't know if that's ever been confirmed. It has to be. And then that video from when James Harden first walked into the locker room,
Russ was
everybody was like, Russ, like, yo.
No, I think that was a 100% a Kawhi move. I think that's a big reason why they got Kawhi to re-sign at the rate that he did. Was because they made that swing for James Harden. I think this was a 100%. This is Kawhi wanted that, and Lawrence Frank made it happen. I don't think PG was completely on board with it at all. But that's also that makes sense. It makes sense.
Pushes him out the way. If they do win a ship, it's it's James Harden and Kawhi, and PG is just playoff P.
So we'll see if they sign, especially if they re-sign James Harden. I mean,
which I think is gonna happen.
Yeah, I think it's 100% going to happen. I don't see where else he goes. So,
but that other guy in LA, Russell Westbrook.
Oh, gosh, I didn't know he was on the list today.
Where y'all? Where you going, eh?
Just take off. Now I'll talk about Russ though. I think. I think Russ ends up leaving. Of course, he has his deadline on the 29th, where he has to pick up or decline his player option for this upcoming season. I think he ends up leaving. Where he goes is another question mark, because like, what are you looking for at this point? You don't have too many years left in your career. You probably got a good 2 years at most, I think, if that. So where do you go? Do you go team up with KD again? Is that relationship good enough to where you want to go down to Phoenix and try to figure out something with him and Bradley Beal? Him and Bradley Beal still boys. Of course, they played together in Washington. Do you want? I don't know how him and Devin Booker are. I don't know. We'll see. But do you want to go try that again? They do need a point guard. Are you willing to accept the kind of role that you'll have to be in that point? It's tough because I don't really see anywhere else. Of course, Miami is always the option that people bring up, but I feel like they just bring that up for anybody that just hustles. Anybody that plays hard, like send him to Miami, he'll be good. So I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
I'd be funny, but I don't know what he really gives you. I don't know what he really gives you as a team if you're trying to be a contender in general. You got to find minutes for him. I don't know. And then, do he want to go? I mean, he could want to go to a young team, maybe teach him a little something. So send him to Houston. I don't know. Go back to Houston.
Not with Fred there.
Yeah.
Before you go with him, to be honest with you, like that this might be the toughest one out of all of them, because at this day and age, at this stage, I don't know what he gives you, honestly.
I don't know. I think I'm saying that he stays out of. There's no other
Lack of
fit
better
that's just
options.
like in my mind. Maybe we'll see what happens with Mike Connolly, but maybe Timberwolves. Maybe I just don't know how. That's very ugly, and I just don't know
It is a little ugly.
him not being able to shoot, whereas Mike Connolly was a good shooter and is a steady hand, where Russ is not that. At the
Complete
point
opposite.
guard position is like polar
I mean,
opposite.
I guess
So
the
that's
real
like a
question
force.
is he going to a starting situation or coming off the bench?
I think if just me thinking, like, if he was to leave, it would be because he's trying to get a starter position.
No,
Unless
I
like
agree with
there's
that.
just like a bona fide, like, you know, I don't know, man. Maybe OKC. He could kind of slot there if he wanted to. I mean, with Shea being a bigger guard and they do have shooting, and it could be like a homecoming for him. I don't know. I just so I gotta go. Just staying. Just you know.
We
But
gonna see.
sticking in California, Klay Thompson. We obviously
Yeah.
saw this past weekend. He unfollowed the Warriors on Instagram and deleted all of his pictures and Warriors stuff. So
And Draymond thinks
I
it's
mean,
hilarious. He thinks it's fucking hilarious.
I don't care about that. But what do y'all think it happens with Klay? Do you think he stays or do you think he goes?
I think plays out of
Out
there.
of there.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I think
to the
no question if he
Kings.
leaves, he's
Oh,
whoa,
whoa.
whoa,
You said to the King?
To the
He
Kings.
wanna light that beam?
Light that beam, Cav.
Okay, I
I
like
like the
We
that.
going
fit.
to the Kings.
I'll be honest with you, Chris. I love the fit. Like a lot. But I just don't think it
Facts.
happens. I don't think it happens.
I think he's going to. If he leaves, he's going to LA. No question to me. I think he's just going to spite them, like like on some Ray Allen shit.
I think he fits either LA team really good if Paul George leaves.
If Paul George leaves,
I think he fits either LA team really good. Like James Harden, him, and Kawhi, I think it's pretty decent. And then him on the Lakers would be him, and I think it'd be great. So
and
yeah,
so
I think, but I don't think he leaves. I can't see him going down to like Orlando or places like that. I get the fit would be cool. Like it's nice to put them in conversations now. Like Orlando's his up and coming team. Like it's cool. Like yeah, but he's not going to do that. I think it's either the LA teams for him.
So yeah, so that's I'm in agreement there. So, moving to the East, we've got a trio of guys from the same team that can all possibly be on the move. So the Cleveland trio: Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen. What do you guys think happened with them?
Of course, there's been reports about that. Them wanting to stick together, them wanting to keep that core together. I think it's time for one of them to move for sure. I'm talking about Donovan or Darius. Of course, we talked about it a few minutes ago. Like with Darius, like he hasn't been given that space to operate. He hasn't been getting that given the rock to really show what he can do on a consistent basis. And it's not his fault. I mean, it's not really Donovan's fault either. We just know like Donovan. We already knew the player that he was coming into this team.
Garland's also been hurt. I mean, bro was sipping out of a straw, eating for like the past like 6 months. So, I mean, that's also part of it. But yeah.
So I think you got to break those. You got to break one of those two up. I think a smart move. I think maybe not smart, but I think the most likely move is for Donovan to stay, and Darius to go. Where Darius goes, of course, you mentioned a destination for Trae Young, but I think Darius Garland, I would like to see him with a team like San Antonio. I would like to see him, honestly, with a team like Minnesota. I think we saw in his playoffs that Minnesota, and that's a team that needs to take a swing too while the iron's hot. I think that's a team that where we saw was missing a playmaker. They just didn't have enough. And I think like Mike Conley's good. He's a steady hand, like you said, good shooter. But the creation wasn't there for Mike Conley a lot. And we saw that pretty much come to his head, especially when, Anthony Edwards got a little bit banged up and, just it wasn't right. But I think Darius Garland would be a great fit in Minnesota if they were to take that swing.
Chris?
I know you said all three of them. I believe if Donovan is staying, Jarrett Allen is definitely staying. So that leaves Darius Garland, the odd man out. But honestly, just for the reason you said, I would not be shocked if y'all keep them together. Y'all have been hurt as a team, not even just Darius himself. As a complete team, y'all was missing various pieces throughout the year, whether it's Darius Garland, whether it was Donovan Mitchell, whether it was Evan Mobley. Y'all haven't had a season since Donovan got there as a full team, like healthy wise.
Yeah.
And when y'all were healthy, y'all was one of the top. Y'all was one of the top 3-4 teams in the conference. So I personally wouldn't be shocked if they stayed. But if not, it's definitely Darius Garland got to go. He's definitely leaving.
You got any spots besides the ones we talked about for him?
Minnesota one that was a good spot for him to be in. Like you said, another playmaker outside of Anthony Edwards. But I was going to say LA really.
Yeah, it's tough because you feel like that the team should make a move. Obviously, with the past, I wouldn't necessarily say. I would say this year was kind of a disappointment in terms of the playoffs. Obviously, losing to the champs is not anything to scoff at. But with Donovan getting hurt, going 7 games with a very young team, and then last year losing to the Knicks, which I still think the Knicks are trash. I don't care whatever they did, but it's kind of tough. So you want to make a move. It does seem like given the last like 48 hours, it does clearly seem that there were some issues with JB Bickerstaff and at the very least Jared Allen, and clearly Donovan Mitchell was not his biggest fan either. But I think the most likely person to get moved is Jared Allen. Even though Donovan has come with his support, the most important thing for the Cavs is to unlock Evan Mobley and his ability. I think the best way to do both that and with Garland is to move Evan Mobley to the center, or at least have him playing more center with a like a shooting center out there. And Jared Allen, I think his stock is as high as it possibly is going to be, and Garland's stock is not really where, like, going to Minnesota, not taking Mike Conley and scraps. Sorry, it's not happening. I'm not going for that.
Mike Conley.
No, y'all can get Alexander Walker. Y'all can get some picks.
You don't want him, bro?
Y'all can get Kyle Anderson. We throw him in there too.
Ooh, that's nasty.
Getting a 24-year-old all-star point guard, you've got to get an all-star towards the end of their career, a la like a PG or a LeBron, that where the value is there. Maybe PG's a slightly better player. Well, I don't want to say slightly, but he's a better player than Darius Garland, but he's older. Obviously, LeBron, same thing. Or you would have to, or like a Brandon Ingram, but I think something has to come back with Brandon Ingram too, just to say. But or you'd have to get somebody that's like a possible ascending all-star plus like a high draft pick. Like you can't just take, I mean, like I said, 24-year-old, 23, 24-year-old all-star point guard. I mean, it's just nah. But
I hear.
Jared Allen, in terms of where he goes,
Yep, kitty cat. Sorry.
Honestly,
that'll unlock Mobley, huh?
Honestly, that would be if you could get, I would still, if as a fan, I'd want them to get Cat and maybe a piece like a Mike Conley if they would go for that, which I think obviously Cat's getting up there in age as well, but that would be the perfect fit. Perfect fit. The Cavs. I don't want to say it's a guarantee, but if Naz Reid didn't sign with the Timberwolves, I'm pretty sure he would have been a Cleveland Cavalier this year. If they really wanted him, he was like their top target the entire offseason. Yeah. But he obviously got signed before the free agency. So and then Micah Nori is also a head coaching candidate that they do have interest in. He is an Ohio native. So given how the team is like built, both Minnesota and Cleveland are very similar. That's obviously a team that they're looking at as well. So Cat would be the dream person to pair up. But also you got to think if Cat wants to play center, which I mean he kind of has. So
yeah, I don't think he has a problem too much with it, but we'll see.
But while we're on Cat, Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I like we said, I think this playoff run kind of how they played down the stretch without him, because he was injured most of the year. Like, we can't forget that. But Minnesota was still balling without them, without him in the lineup. He came back and he had some good games. He had some good stretches. Not gonna lie, not gonna play on Cat's name, but at the same time, he is approaching 30 very fast. When you have a contract that you have, or that you're going to have, actually, I don't think it started yet with Ant, and you still got Rudy Gobert's contract. It's Tanner, and you got McDaniels. Like, he has a pretty big contract coming up as well. You got to make some tough decisions. You can't keep everybody together. And I think Cat is most likely to be moved out of that rather than a Gobert. So I think it'll be smart for Minnesota to kind of try to see what they can get, kind of pivot off of him. I wouldn't be mad if they keep him. Maybe they feel that good about their team, but I feel like you need to get rid of Cat if you're Minnesota. And where he goes is tough as well, because his skill set is
in the West Coast. Well, perfect fit in the West Coast.
In the West?
Mm-hmm.
Who? Let's hear it. Sign it. Oh, he had to sign trade. Which one? The Clippers?
PG.
With trade PG for Cat?
Mm-hmm.
That'll be interesting. And him and PG boys too. Like, they really like boys. But
trade PG for Cat, and you can put because McDaniels can play power forward. Mm-hmm. Now you're at maximum. You don't necessarily Rudy Gobert. It keeps like the same structure in terms of having a shooter. You having somebody that can switch. And now Paul George is the second scorer, or behind Anthony Edwards, that they desperately need. I think a lot of sign and trade. I think a lot of guys right now that could possibly be moved would make sense for other teams, for guys that could be moved. That makes sense.
That's fair. I think Cat, and I know he don't really fit. Well, I don't know, because Cat, I feel like Cat can still be a plus defender. I don't want to say a good defender, but not a liability out there. He's a solid defender. He's a solid defender. And I think a team like the Knicks could be good if you pivot away from Julius Randle.
That's been the rumor. That's been the rumor. And they could definitely use
Till's playing him 48 minutes a night.
He would never make 48 minutes.
Yeah, he wouldn't make that. Yeah, but
that is the only reason I don't like the Knicks, because he would foul out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I do like the fit, though. But go ahead. Chris, you got anything about Cat?
Just saying, they need to, after, you cannot run this back. As unfortunate it is, as successful as your team was this year, y'all literally have flaws that's been seen by everybody. I mean, even though you did beat Denver, you still have your flaws. So I think you have to move somebody. I just outside of like Shai said, and I just don't see who you can, even with the Julius Randle, you're not about to take this nigga Julius Randle. I'm sorry. Hell no. You ain't about to take that ain't gonna move no needles for your team. But so honestly, I don't know where you could trade him. I would rather get rid of Rudy than him, honestly.
See, get rid of Rudy would just
rim protection is so huge.
It's tough to get rid of the defensive player of the year. Just fuck it. You know what I mean? I don't think that's the move.
It'd be tough. But I think he should. Well, I don't want to say I think he should be moved. I think he'll ultimately end up staying, but I do think there are a lot of intriguing places. The Cavs, that like I said, it makes a lot of sense. Especially if they do. Well, this is a lot of shaking and moving. Never mind that. But I think that would make a lot of sense. The Knicks make some sense. I think the Clippers make some sense as well. I think Cat would be, of all the people that we talked about, aside maybe like Donovan or Trey or Braun, maybe, I think Cat would be he would be the person that would be the most prized out of everybody. Just because right now I think the league is looking for
that skill set,
big that can shoot, that's willing to defend, that's also willing to rebound. I mean, people hate on Cat a lot, but Cat is really one of the more complete bigs in the league, and he's really, he's an elite player. He's an elite player. He's somebody that could really use a championship for his legacy or his standing in the league. I think that would have helped.
Nobody salute you, bro.
Yeah, that shit's crazy.
Man.
But with the last one, rounding out with his former teammate, Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Not somebody that's been talked about a lot this offseason, really at all. What do you guys do? I mean, I would venture to say we're all probably going to say he's going to get moved. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But if not, if so, where do you think he gets moved? And if not, then why not?
Yeah. So Zach has been in like the past 2 years pretty much. He's been a lot of rumors, a lot of trade rumors. It was reported that his relationship with Billy Donovan was going sour. Of course, he's had to deal with injuries throughout that. And it seems like the Bulls are keeping Billy Donovan because they added to his staff. So with that being said, I think there's no way in hell that you can run this shit back with Zach LaVine there. If you're the Bulls, where does he go? The thing about Zach LaVine, I really think he's a very skilled player, and we saw him kind of emerge after the dunk contest and all that. But he emerged more into a more of a playmaker, more of a shooter, a lot more of a shooter. Sometimes he empties the clip, and sometimes he's missing that shit. But we've seen him have big games where he'll fuck around and come out and get 6, 7 threes and just look amazing. He has that skill set, but he's not. He can't be. I don't think he could be the first or second option on the team. And with that being said, I think a team like the Lakers, would be a great use of his skill set. He can handle the ball a little bit, but you don't want him doing that. But you do want him to be that kind of option that can just go nuclear on any night. In the playoffs, Zach LaVine fuck around and get 25, 30 points, and it's like, damn, we glad we got this guy on our side. He can space the floor. He's not a good defender, but he knows how to play defense. He has good length, good size for his position. So I think the Lakers could be a good fit. I don't see I don't know who all can take on the contract as well as the role that I'm seeing very clearly. But I do like the Lakers fit if they can make that work. I hate putting everybody on Lakers though, so I'm trying to think of a different team.
I just think
send his ass back
LeBron
to his original
just makes
team.
a lot of people an easy fit. I feel like.
Yeah, that's true too.
And then I just feel like right now LeBron's at a point in his career where he's like, look, I am so happy to be the guy that gets 12 assists and 20, smooth 20, easy 20 points, here and there, get my little 12 assists. You guys can go when the playoff come, it's back to me. But so I see a lot of guys that are like scorer types could fit there.
But I hear you, Chris, on sending them back. You talking about Minnesota? Yeah,
that was one I thought about too.
I thought about that. I just don't. I don't know that fit with him and Ant. I think it'd be a little clunky, but I don't hate it at all.
Fucking person to score.
They guy.
They need it bad, and I feel like I get
guard wing, yeah. Sure.
I get it. Get in trouble. I mean, Zach gonna go downhill. He gonna go downhill. He's been shown that he can actually shoot the ball a little better than he originally could. Like you said, he can turn into a 30-point game one day just like that. But I get it. It is seem a little clunky, but I think I don't. Other than that, I mean, like you said, in LA, but that's the only team that can Bron make everybody work as well as he can. I should say. So
yeah, because I would have said I honestly like the fit with him and Sack, but I also think they want to leave the room for Keegan Murray to kind of mold into what he wants to be. So I don't want to say there, but I do like that fit. It's tough.
I like him and Paolo. Him going to Orlando. That's his. They could use a guard. Obviously, they have Suggs, and we'll see if he ends up getting moved or whatnot for a bigger piece, so to say. But I think they could use the scoring from the guard position, and kind of his explosiveness from the guard position as well down in Orlando. And I think it makes a lot of sense. They've got a lot of young guys that could go to Chicago because right now I don't know what the fuck Chicago's got going on, in terms of their team or what they want to build, and it's kind of an ugly team just in general. Well, not to say that they don't have talent. It's just like you have three good guards, and Lonzo. Well, possibly we'll see what happens with Lonzo. Lonzo's Levine and Kobe White, but you also have DeMar and Alex Caruso.
Caruso. Yeah.
It's Awu. What's his name?
You got Patrick Williams.
Yeah.
What's that center? Fucking
Vucevic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just
a lot of
Andre Drummond. Like it's just
Andre
like
Drummond, but you saw that he's trying to leave.
Patrick Williams is probably gonna leave too, and it's weird.
It is. It's very weird there. But that's what I like about like the NBA though, because like as soon as the finals over, like this shit tends to happen very quickly. Compared to what we've been talking about with like the NFL all season. We'll find out in the next literally like 2-3 weeks where all these people are, what they're doing, pretty much.
You're only talking about the stars because it's obviously stars they're the stars for a reason, and they're the people, they're scoring the most points or breaking the most records, having the awards and whatnot. But like I just said about the Bulls, them being like an ugly team is, like I said, it doesn't mean that they don't have talent. But that's the good thing about the NBA, when you do have those teams that are kind of ugly, that have these players that could be good, that are just kind of, they're in a really rough situation, and now they go to another team and they flourish. That's something, we don't know right now because it's hard to know specifically for role players where they're gonna go and be a fit to excel. But that's something that the championships are going to be made around right now. Like, moving and shaking right now. I mean, for the Celtics, it was around right. It was a little closer to the season, obviously, when Damian Lillard got traded to the Bucks. That kind of set everything.
But it was like maybe so. That's when they got Porzingis, though.
Porzingis, so that set everything in motion for them because soon as, and then I'm sure conversations with Damian Lillard were had, and they had an idea. Obviously, it took some time, but we'll see. So I'm excited. Like you said, I mean, the draft is next week. Well, obviously, there's not too much to talk about in terms of the coaching candidacies, because aside from Monty Williams being fired today, so another one opened up in Detroit. It seems like the same guys are being floated. The James Borregos, JJ Redick has now been floated to the Pistons. It seems like that's the only other organization right now that he's been floated to. Kenny Atkinson as well. So we'll see. But, it's kind of sad, NFL season's over, NBA season's over. From now to last year, watching a recap video, I don't know if I sent that to y'all, but, we said there wasn't a lot that was going on in the season, but there still was a lot.
That 18-minute video, I watched all of that shit. Yeah, there's a lot that happened. I watched all of it too, The in-season tournament, obviously the Lakers winning. The Celtics' dominance throughout the entirety of the season, raising banner number 18. Shout out to them. The James Harden nonsense. James Harden drama,
Big Yama. Like it was a good season. The storylines were a little weird. Yeah, the Doc Rivers and storylines were a little weird, but all in all, good season. Definitely looking forward to next season and seeing how everything shakes out. But with that being said, moving to the NFL, we've got another week of our rankings, and I think this might be possibly the most controversial week,
for sure,
as it always is with any show and any rankings. We're getting to the quarterbacks, the last one on offense, most important position. I'm sure we're gonna have probably 4 or 5 of the same folks, and then from there, that's when it's gonna get a little.
We'll get interested. I was making my list. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it's a lot of good. It's a lot of good potential quarterbacks because, like, a couple years ago, Deshaun Watson was bona fide top 6-7 quarterback. Now he's probably bona fide bottom 6-7 quarterback for a lot of people. And he can, just like that, switch and it be right back up there. So I'm interested to see y'all's list, but let's get into it.
Yeah, I'll go first. Fuck it. I'll go first. All right, so. No particular order, top 10.
You got Kurt.
Yeah, no. Kurt got to show me. Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I think we can all agree that we got those four for sure. I got Matt Stafford in my 5. Wait, what you make that face for?
Wait, hold on. Patrick Mahomes, who?
Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen.
Okay.
I got Matt Stafford in there. I think he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I really like Matt Stafford, what he's got going on. I got CJ Stroud in my top 10. A lot of that is on projection. I am projecting that he has the success that he had, more success.
Well, all of his who's going to be top 10 by the end of the season. So
right. So CJ Stroud, Aaron Rodgers, still in my top 10. We had a lot of conversations about the Jets on this podcast. So if you're a long time listener, you know how we feel about what the Jets got going on, and Aaron Rodgers, what he still has in the tank. I got Dak Prescott. Now this is one I struggled with, but I can't deny the regular season that he had. What he was doing against, like, I know that he had some tough games against big competition. But he still put up numbers. He's still top 5 MVP voting. So Dak is in there. I got Jared Goff in my top 10 as well. I do like the continuity that they have there. Of course, they re-signed pretty much all their big guys, which is huge, especially for a quarterback like Jared Goff that pretty much thrives on that continuity, and with Ben Johnson staying. So I got him, and then rounding it up, I got Kyler Murray. And I know, like, this is, I don't know what y'all list looking like, but I do still feel like Kyler is still a good quarterback in this league. And I think having a number one option like Marvin Harrison Jr. will really propel him into what he was, honestly, as a Pro Bowler. So Kyler rounds out my top 10. It's tough though, because I left out.
So who would you say was like your first off?
My first off would probably be Goff.
No. I'm saying like the 11.
Okay, yeah, my number 11 would be Herbert. Okay. Justin Herbert.
Oh, you didn't have
for
Herbert
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Chris. Let's hear what say you.
Gosh, Lamar and Joe. I do got Aaron Rodgers. I actually have Justin Herbert on there. I have Matthew Stafford. I got Jalen Hurts. I got Jordan Love. And round off a 10, y'all gonna be like, ugh. I got Tua.
Why Tua?
Because, I mean, you can't deny their offense is dynamic. Their offense is dynamic. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, their team in general be selling, but their offense is dynamic. So that's why I got them.
So who was your 11? Who would you say was your first off?
That's right.
Yeah, it was tough. It's tough.
It's a tough one.
I'm surprised none of y'all said the man in San Fran.
I know, bro. Yeah, I know he'll probably be on your list, but he was close. He was my 12. I wrote down the list of 15. To be honest with you, just
yeah, I wrote down a list of 15 as well.
Go ahead.
So Pat, Lamar, Josh, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, of course.
Yeah, but say stop playing.
Look, Joe Burrow was one of them ones that I was like, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, Justin Herbert, Matt Stafford, and then it comes down to my last 3.
Yeah.
That's where it got tough. So Brock Purdy is on my list.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's going to have another great season. And I think ultimately, like, this is going to be the season where he stamps himself as a player. Brock Purdy wasn't as tough. Well, he was a little bit tough, but the last 3 were the toughest for me. For my 9th guy, not in any particular order, I have Jalen Hurts as well. I think that he gets back on track. And not to say that he had a bad season last year, but obviously we all know how the Eagles ended their season. I think that obviously with Saquon coming over there, that'll just make their offense that much more explosive. And then I think that Paris Campbell becomes his best friend. And then at number 10, Anthony fucking Richardson.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, you did for real?
Yes.
I told you.
Anthony was – so that was the Hurts and Richardson were the 2 toughest ones for me. Richardson, I didn't originally have him in my top 10. But I do think that he makes a huge jump. I think he kind of has similar to Jalen Hurts, that jump that he had from his first year officially starting to the second year with Shane Steichen. I think we see that with Anthony Richardson. And then similar to what I said with Jalen Hurts and Jonathan Taylor, I think the Colts they were a top 10 offense last year. You could probably pin them down to be another top 10 offense this year, and I think we'll see that. But originally, I did have Kyler in my top 10. And
I like what he could do.
I think that he had a pretty good season last year. Obviously, he was coming off injury. Now he's another full year away from his ACL injury. Obviously, having a number one receiver coming over there, a guy that he can kind of grow with. He did have D-Hop before, and he was making some noise. Michael Wilson, I think, has a huge jump in his second year as receiver.
I really like him.
They have Zay Jones there and Greg Dortch, who's good as well, and then Trey McBride. So I think that offense really could be explosive. But their first three games is Buffalo, Rams, and then Detroit Lions. That for me, I was like, that's the first three games. First three games, and then the fifth game is the 49ers, the sixth game's the Packers, then it's the Chargers, then it's the Dolphins, then it's the Bears, then it's the Jets before the bye. So their easiest game of the first 10 weeks is the Washington Commanders, and that's sandwiched between Detroit and the San Francisco 49ers. So that was why I was like, yeah, I was like, it could go either way. So I honestly was gonna do a tie, but I didn't want y'all to make fun of me. So the other guy that I was, I guess my next out was Trevor Lawrence. I think that he has a good season. Yes, I think he has a good season with
this shot we talking to, Chris?
Brian Thomas.
Facts, the fuck.
But then I looked at their schedule, and they start at Miami, the Cleveland Browns, at Buffalo, at Houston, against the Colts, at the Bears, the Patriots, Packers, Eagles, and then Vikings, and then Lions. So, I mean, that's a tough gauntlet to start the season. I mean, your first 5 games, you're not getting a easy game until you play the Bears, which is week 6. Your first 5 games is at Miami against the Cleveland defense, and then at Buffalo, then at Houston, who won the division, is obviously a division rival, and then against Indy, which is a division rival as well. So that is why I didn't go with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, that Bears game is international as well.
International too.
Yeah, so that's not really
But, I fuck with the AR one. I fuck with it for the same reason why I don't think CJ Stroud is gonna have a as good of a year as he had last year. I mean, they usually, after your first year, nobody really you like that. You take this league by storm. Second year, people are better equipped to game plan against you. As Anthony Richardson, he didn't really play. He got hurt. Still some stuff to figure out with him. I mean, we haven't seen him at tip top level yet. So it still could be a shock to anybody.
We didn't get to see him with Jonathan Taylor. I think a lot of people
that's also
are not
true.
like Zach Moss was top 3 in rushing yards. Like the first half of he was top 3. He was like top 5 in rushing yards like the majority of the season. Until the end when Jonathan Taylor slowly started to take over, and that was 100% due to the effect of Anthony Richardson, and then obviously once Gardner Minshew got there, he went down quickly.
Real quick, shot. Where'd you have Jordan Love? Where do you have Jordan Love?
He was the next 3. It was like I erased and put it. So originally I had in Purdy, Lawrence, and Kyler with Hurts and Richardson the first 2 out. Then I went and looked at the schedule and I was like, no shot. And then Jordan Love, I think he has a talent to be a top 10 quarterback. I think that those receivers are still young, him still being young. I think I think he has a good season. I just think that they still have some. And then the competition in the division will be a little bit tougher too.
That's fair.
So hopefully if Caleb Williams is the next great quarterback, like everybody says.
We'll see.
So it's funny to hear nobody say Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I'm not putting him in the top 10.
I'm not.
But I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Not saying he's. I just don't like when people superly a quarterback or anybody in general without actually seeing them playing against like the actual pros. Like, yes, he dominated in college and doing all that extra stuff, but what if you go in a pro? He can't. He really this shit too much to process. I'm saying people in general, not him, but I'm just saying people in general who like quote unquote top picks and stuff like that. They do what they do in college, and then people just automatically believe like their first year they just gonna hit the ground, just gonna take off, and it's just like that shit ain't real. It's just a few people who can do that, and most of them are like edge rushers and shit like that. Even them, they don't got their strength, so they don't always pan out quickly at all. So
Like that's the main thing I had. Like Caleb didn't dominate. Of course, people point to his O line or lack of receivers after Jordan left, but defense. But it's still like he wasn't out here just dominate. He wasn't like just.
He went 8-5 last year.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So
He went 8-5 last year.
yeah, this shit different. So we'll see.
That feels like he got more hype than like Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. Well, Joe Burrow, I feel like didn't get a lot of hype. Like he had a great season, but there were a lot of people that were like, Joe Burrow, we're not so sure about him, blah blah blah.
Because of how old he was, they didn't really.
And then like his previous
right.
Season,
I was like him actually start to finish. Right, yeah. Basically. And Trevor Lawrence's mantra was he been winning since he was in high school. So
yeah,
but I don't know. But, I mean, that gives us a wrap for another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast. Gives us a wrap for the NBA season, like we mentioned. We'll get into a little bit of the NBA draft next week, and hopefully we see some trades over the next week as well. Congratulations to you, Chris, and we'll catch y'all next week.
What Cat do?
All right, y'all boys.